So I definitely wasn't born into it, you know. Didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. It was more like a wood spoon, right? So it doesn't matter where you came from. It's, you know, your future is entirely up to you.
No fake shit against me shall prosper. Yes, I came, I saw, I conquered.
That's kind of starting off like that, a lot in there, but
Discipline's a bad word.
yeah.
Discipline's a bad word. I mean, honestly, most people have a bad association with the word
It
discipline.
makes me uncomfortable, to be honest.
Well, think about it. If when you were a kid and you got in trouble, what do you know? If it's the principal or if it's your parents, it's you need to be disciplined.
Right.
So most people have a negative association with the word discipline. And even when you think about, let's say, organizations that are known for their discipline, like the military, most people even have a negative association with that. They think of boot camp, you know, a drill sergeant yelling in your face, you know, instilling discipline in you.
Discipline goes for bad kids. I mean,
Right.
Usually it's not a preventative thing, but more of like a reactionary kind of consequential thing.
Right. So most people, when they hear discipline, they kind of cringe. When I was a kid, I cringed at discipline. I didn't have any discipline. My father was very strict, but he wasn't consistent enough with me to teach me discipline. My mother, same thing. She was great at instilling values, but she didn't have discipline in her own life. So most of the time as kids, we learn from our parents. We just learn by example. It's not what they say, it's what they do. So I didn't have any discipline as a kid. I was very, very undisciplined. Matter of fact, I remember when I was my son's age. He's 10, about to turn 11. When I was the exact same age, a friend of mine, he was in Boy Scouts. He said, Boy Scouts, it's awesome. We do campouts. We do all these cool, fun things. It sounded awesome. He sold me on it. So I went to that first meeting, and the scout leader sat down and he talked about things like waking up in the morning and making your bed. He talked about, you know, basic disciplines. And I'm like, I'm out. Dude, that's all it took. That's all it took to talk me out of it, was having to make my bed in the morning. That's how undisciplined I was. And so consequently, as I grew up as a young adult, I never accomplished any of the things that I wanted to accomplish. I was great at starting things. I would get really excited about things. I would get it going. I would get halfway through. And as soon as I encountered some sort of small obstacle, I would fall off. I was totally undisciplined. So it's something that I've had to teach myself through the years, and I've come to really appreciate discipline because it's the only way that you get things done. Mm-hmm. It's the only way. I don't care if you're building a business or you're trying to build a physique, whatever it is, discipline is just one of those required elements. You have to have it. So the big question is, if you don't have discipline, how do you create discipline? And to your point, what is discipline? I think most people, when they think of discipline, they think of a feeling, right? Either I feel disciplined or I don't feel disciplined. Right. And discipline isn't about a feeling. We talked about drill instructors or a drill sergeant with the military. So how does the military instill discipline into someone? Well, they literally, in the beginning, they almost have to beat it into you. But what it really boils down to is structure. It boils down to structure, and it boils down to habits. Like, you have to have something to be disciplined too. So it goes back to game plans.
A lot of what I hear about that is, you know, when you join a military or any kind of like, you know, one of those stern organizations, they break you down and they build you back up.
Well, look, ask anyone who's been in the military after. So after they're out of the military, most of them appreciate the discipline that they learned in the military. I'm sure in the beginning, when they were in the middle of boot camp, they didn't appreciate it that much.
Right.
But that's because it had to be beat into them in the beginning. But really what it comes down to is training someone to be structured. That's really what it boils down to. So for me, being disciplined and going into the gym requires less discipline on my part than it does for you. Because for me, it's a habit. It's just part of my routine. Right. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to talk myself into it. I don't think about it at all. I just walk in there and I just do it because it's just part of my routine. That's why I appreciate lists. I think lists are a key part. And, you know, if it's out in the gym, it's the same thing. I make lists for everything. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to start a new workout plan, I write it all down. I get it on a piece of paper. If anyone's followed any of the vlogs that I've done for my training programs, I put it on a calendar. Matter of fact, I've got one right in front of me because today it's all going on the calendar. The list is important. Why? It's for that crossing it off the list. That feels good. So like you said, if you're going to go clean the living room, Well, you don't just write clean the living room. What are all the things in the living room that you have to clean?
Dust
Break
the
it into
TV,
small
yep,
things.
yep.
Why? Because every time you accomplish a small thing, you get that satisfaction of crossing off the list and you build momentum.
So you're saying it can be learned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I'm telling you, I didn't have it when I was younger. I've just learned to really appreciate it, and it is a form of self-mastery to me now. It's no different than think about things where you hear the word discipline. Martial arts, you're supposed to
And
be
I was going to get to
disciplined.
that. It's, not all discipline is bad, because
No.
when you're learning karate or Muay Thai, you're learning a discipline, which is, I know you're a martial arts guy when you were younger, but that's like the good discipline.
That's a-
What I mean?
that's
That's
a
not
good-
the consequential discipline.
And look, and that's the thing. That's the difference between consequential discipline, right? You did something wrong, and now, you got to pay the price for it, right? You have to be disciplined. Versus having discipline or structure, or more importantly, what this really boils down to is self-control. So in the military, they come in and they instill it in you. But day to day, we don't have anyone walking behind us, barking at us. Some people need that, right? That's why some people hire a personal trainer in the gym, because they need someone to go bark at them, hold them accountable, and say, hey, where are you? You showing up tomorrow? Do 10 more. They need someone to push themselves. But at the end of the day, what we're really talking about here is learning self-control. How do you hold yourself accountable? It goes back to the planning. If I don't have a game plan, then I'm not going to be disciplined, because I have nothing to be disciplined to.
When you're trying to approach a business thing or a fitness thing, how important is self-discipline and self-control in that?
It's at the top of the list, because inevitably you're always going to encounter things that you don't want to do for whatever reason. Maybe you're afraid to do it. Maybe you feel too tired. Maybe you feel too busy. I mean, you can go through and you can make a million excuses of why. At the end of the day, it boils down to your ability to make yourself do something even when you don't want to do it. And so that's where I kind of have to look at different tools. How do I motivate myself to do it? How do I hold myself accountable? And going back to discipline, right? If we talk about what is discipline and what structure, it's rules. So it's creating rules for yourself, and then creating some sort of accountability there. There's got to be some sort of consequence for yourself. Otherwise, you're just relying on other people. And look, that's a point of government, right? At the end of the day, what's government here for? Is to be able to create some structure, some organization, some rules.
Right.
Otherwise there's chaos. Well, if we don't create that for ourselves, we don't create structure, we don't create rules for ourselves, there's going to be chaos. So I'm always creating rules for myself. Like one that I tell people all the time is, I think that our phones are really disruptive in home life. And so one of the rules that I have for myself is when I walk in the front door every day, one of the best parts of my day is my kids running up to me as I walk through the door. It's kind of like that old-fashioned thing, right? I walk through the door, they run up and they give me a hug. So what's going to happen the first time I walk through the door and I've got my phone to my ear and it's an important call and they come running up to me screaming, what am I going to do? I'm going to give them the Heisman, right? And what's going to happen? They're going to stop running up to me, and I'm going to miss the best part of my day. So what do? I create a rule for myself. When I walk through that front door, I'm never, ever, ever on the phone. Ever.
Discipline comes one decision at a time.
Yeah, it really is. I think that's a great way of putting it. Life is decisions. It's made up of countless decisions, and you don't even realize how many decisions you make every single day. Some of them are conscious decisions, and some of them are just subconscious decisions, and that's the thing. That's where habits come into play. I think some of those things that you don't really think much about, do I go to the gym? Do I not go to the gym? Do I eat this? Do I not eat that? All those little decisions, the more you can just make them habit. Like, do you wake up in the morning? This is the example I always use. Do you wake up in the morning and say, am I going to brush my teeth? Am I not going to brush my teeth? Am I going to brush them, up and down? Am I going to brush them left or right? No, it's just habit. You just get up and you just do it. And that's the way it is for me when I'm on my game. I don't think about it. I don't give myself that choice of talking myself out of it. It's not up for debate. I just go do it.
And it all starts with making your bed every day.
It starts with the little things. I actually have a funny story for that. So I had a personal mentor when I was about 20 years old. So I sat down with her and she asked me what I wanted to accomplish 10 years from now. And so I told her about all these ideas, things that I wanted to accomplish. And so she started backing it out like, okay, what can you do this year? Okay, what can you do this month? Okay, what can you do today to make your life, improve the quality of your life today? And I said, well, I don't know, I need to do this and I need that. And, pointed to all these reasons why I couldn't reach my goal today. I didn't feel like I had the tools at my disposal at that time. She's like, no, what's something that you can do right now? No excuses, that you can improve the quality of your life. And I thought about it for a minute. I said, I'm embarrassed to say, but my room was kind of a disaster. I was in college. When I'd bring girls over, my room was a total, there were clothes
Bed's kind
everywhere.
of clean, somewhat.
Yeah, so I'd always have to shove stuff under the bed if I knew a girl was coming over. So I said, plus it makes me, I don't know, I just feel my life feels kind of chaotic when I wake up to that every morning. She's like, oh, okay, so clean your room every day. That'll be one way that you can improve the quality of your life right now and start to build that discipline. And I was like, oh, man, clean my room. And she's like, wait a second. So you tell me that you want to accomplish all these things in your life, but you can't even clean your room? And as soon as she said that to me, I'm like, wow, well, when you say it like that. But so, yeah, to your point, it's one decision at a time. It's finding those little things. It's building blocks. And you build momentum. We talked about that before. I'm a huge believer in momentum. And momentum works both ways. Either you can build momentum in a positive way, or some of your bad habits builds momentum in a negative way. And it takes you down a path you don't want to go.
Right. Success is not a matter of mastering subtle, sophisticated theory, but rather embracing common sense with uncommon levels of discipline and persistence.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've said it before in a really simple way, which is I've told you that some of the most successful people that I know really aren't even the most intelligent. They're applying simple strategies and being really disciplined about it. They're just doing it over and over, and they're being consistent, and they're applying hard work toward it. And that's really the building blocks of everything. I've said it about the gym. I know that there's a million ways to work out, right? And there's a lot of different theories on how you should be training and how you should be eating and how you should be supplementing. It's really not that hard. It's not that complicated. Yes, there's some basic things you should do and you shouldn't do. But at the end of the day, the problem isn't how to do it. It's just doing it. And it's doing it consistently and applying enough effort to it. And you do that over a long enough period of time and you're going to get results. And that's why I've always said, and it sounds a little egotistical, but I say it wholeheartedly that I could probably follow any plan and I know I could get results because I'll put enough effort into it and I'll do it consistently enough.